Hello, this is Tim Law with Playing It Forward Coaching, always encouraging your self-reliance. If you'll develop a marketable skill, chase that skill with a good work ethic, always go the extra mile, develop people skills. You'll be amazed what you'll do in this country. A big thank you to almost 550 people who have subscribed to this channel, Playing It Forward Coaching. If you haven't already, please do so. I'd super appreciate it. I have a guy here that is one of those individuals, well, in the wrestling community, you meet people and you immediately enjoy and like them right away. And that's true with my good friend, Brenden Rogers, behind me for a number of years as far as at Oswego State, good wrestler. So Brenden, welcome and tell us about your story there.
Hi, Tim. Well, my story started in 1984 and I went to Oswego State with the intention of being a wrestler and hopefully getting a college degree. Working hard for a few years. Later on in 1988, due to various reasons, I left school. When I left school, Coach Jim Howard was the head coach. Mike Howard was originally my teammate. I was a freshman who was a senior. Then Mike had worked himself into the assistant role. So basically what happened was I left in 1988, went to work in construction right above New York City, and I worked until 1993. In 1993, I talked to Coach Mike and Coach Jim about returning to Oswego to finish my degree. At that time, I had just got married and decided that teaching may be a better path for me. They were welcoming me with open arms. They helped me get back on track with being a college student. And I went the fall of 93 and graduated the spring of 94. Since 1994 fall, I've been a teacher. Just finished my 28th year. And I've also been a wrestling coach and a football coach. It's been a great career.
Sure. And tell us about that 93, 94 year, because I remember you telling me this at one of the wrestling reunions. It just cracked me up as far as the Howards, Coach Jim and Coach Michael. They kind of got their pound of flesh out of you, which was absolutely brilliant as far as eligibility was concerned. So please share that story. That's pretty cool.
So I'm heading back to Oswego State. My wife and I, we got an apartment in Liverpool, and I drove up and she drove south each day to her new teaching job. I said to Mike, I said, can I help out? I just walked off a construction site. I had not worn wrestling shoes in 5 years, 5 or 6 years. He says, well, I need a heavyweight. I said, Mike, I'm 26 years old. I turned 27 in 2 weeks. He goes, there's plenty of guys in Division III that wrestle well past 18, 19, 20. And I'm like, really? I don't know if I could do it. Next thing I know, I'm doing the campus run, which almost killed me because I think it had been 6 years since I ran. And then getting used to being with wrestling shoes on a mat, I felt different pains that I hadn't never felt in my life before. It was quite an experience. I had a full team of young guys that I was part of, and only one of them was 21 or older. The rest of them was a very young team at the time. And ended up being a really incredible group of guys. So basically my career is I started in 84, I graduated in 94, I spanned 10 years, but there's a whole time that I was not at Oswego. I was working. The season itself, it took some time to get up to speed. It was, I hadn't been on the mat for a long time. I would always joke saying that I won every lunchtime wrestling match on a construction site that existed. We'd put out a couple of pieces of sheetrock, and my brother's my boss. he would challenge any plumber, electrician, anybody who wrestled in high school to wrestle against me at lunchtime. And I'd come up victorious usually. Yeah, I think I won every match there. Um, but I come back to Oswego, having a great time, working through the pains. The first match I had, when I came back, he's now the head wrestling coach at Johnson and Wales in Rhode Island, a guy named Lonnie Morris. And he's like the 1 or the 2 seed in the Ithaca preseason tournament. And I go out there, he takes me down. He's pretty quick for a big guy. Well, next thing you know, I hit a Peterson and I put him to his back. Now, I eventually lose because the wind that I sucked in, I wasn't used to going that hard. And I just lost because I had nothing left in the tank by third period. Lonnie comes up to me afterwards. Who the hell are you? I started laughing. He goes, where'd you come from? You're not on anybody's radar. And I go, dude, I took many years off and I'm coming back. I have a one year go at it this year. And lo and behold, at the end of the season, I stood next to Lonnie on the podium at the Division III Nationals, and he's been a good friend ever since.
Very cool. Very cool.
That's a wrestling story.
Yeah. Well, how did Michael work out the eligibility? That was the question I had, because you start in 84, you finish in 94. I guess you hadn't used all your eligibility, and I guess in Division III, you can stretch that out much further than you can. And typically in Division I, it's 5 years to make 4. Obviously, COVID changed that. But how did that work in Division III?
I don't know total details, but I do know I competed 3 years at Oswego State and I redshirted a year.
Okay.
And I redshirted my second year. And that was a good time for me to learn. I remember it clear as day. And like I said before, I had the new teammates now. I have the old teammates back in the 80s. Mm-hmm. And it makes for a lot of fun when we get together for the reunions.
Sure. Well, Patrick would have been one of your teammates, Whittekins, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He was a senior captain at the time.
Great guy for sure. Absolutely. Well, tell us about a little bit, Brenden, about, the legacy. I know your daughter's done very well as far as sports and athletics, the legacy that wrestling has helped, as far as you and your family are concerned.
The legacy, one, being involved with wrestling very long time. It's an important sport that has carried me, gave me drive to finish things. Mm-hmm. My daughter went to Oswego, and totally different type of student than I was, which means she was a great student. She's a field hockey player. She had a tremendous season last year. I'm kind of bummed that she lost a year due to COVID, but she finished as an all-SUNYAC second team member and part of a great up-and-coming sport at Oswego that is really on its way back up to a winning program. I was so impressed with how she did. I had more fun being a spectator for her, I think, than I ever had wrestling as a competitor.
Well, it's got to be better than the campus run, Brenden, for sure.
Oh boy, the Fallbrook run. Oof. Coach Howard's, Jim and Mike, listen, I'm a heavyweight. Put me in the weight room, okay? I could lift weights all day long. You put me out on those runs, you almost killed me.
Yeah, no question about it. And I always like to ask this question, Brenden, what advice, given your experience now and everything, would you apply to, let's say teens, young adults, as far as, certain life lessons you've learned that we could apply to them?
Best life lesson is, it's not about the big giant titles and championships. It's about setting small goals and reaching them. Mm-hmm. The enjoyment comes from when it could be making it through a tough practice and sitting on the bench, taking your shoes off after it's over and smiling because maybe you've scored a takedown on somebody you've never come close to scoring on. Mm-hmm. maybe you climbed ropes in your wrestling room because you never could before. And at my coaching, I constantly talk to my wrestlers and my football players, set small goals.
Mhm.
And they love to hear stories. So I always talk to them about, maybe you see somebody over there that you want to get to know, like a future girlfriend, which I always joke with them. I said, the pretty girl in science class, like Charlie Brown talks about. I said, do you sit back and never attempt to talk to her, or do you tough it out and risk the chance of being embarrassed? But the payoffs are great if you try and you achieve your goal. Maybe Charlie Brown met that girl and got her phone number and got her date, but and the kids, they love hearing stuff like that. I said,
Sure.
it's part of life, man. Take a shot, because you never know if it would have worked if you don't take a shot.
Right. Well, let's face it. I mean, you've experienced it. I've experienced it. Every time we step on the mat, we're taking a shot regardless, it's just, you and the other guy and that referee. And I always said to the kids that I've coached in wrestling, you can only blame the zebra just so much before you have to look in the mirror and realize, you know what, I got to improve. That's for sure. So definitely agree with you on that, Brenden, for sure. You're always taking a chance as soon as you step onto that mat, for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. Any other last second thoughts, Brenden? This has been great. Any last second thoughts that you have here?
Well, I did tell you about a Coach Jim story. Remember?
Go ahead. Let's hear that one. I always like hearing those.
Okay. Now, Coach Jim is well into his retirement, and I was back for my second tour of duty on the Oswego State wrestling team, and we're wrestling in the RIT tournament.
Mm-hmm.
I was facing a guy named Sean. I'm not sure what his last name was, but he was a Manhattan College wrestler, so he was a D1 level guy. And we go into second overtime, I think, whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Coach Jim was working as the announcer for the tournament that day.
Mm-hmm.
Coach Mike is in my corner. Brenden, you got to shoot. So it must have been the first overtime. And I'm just trying to get inside on this guy so I can get off a good double. And, we're both pushing each other hard. And out of nowhere, I hear the announcer's voice, Coach Jim. God damn it, Brenden, shoot already.
That's him.
The whole gym heard it. At that point, I snapped the guy hard. His head popped up. I scored a double. I won the bout. And I shook hands. And the first thing I said when I turned and I looked at Mike was, "Hey, was that Jim?" He starts laughing. I'm out of breath, but I couldn't hold it. I started laughing over that. It was, that was a moment that I'll never forget.
Yeah. Well, Coach and I did a good interview. I don't know if you've seen it or not yet, but he is a ball of energy for a guy that's in his late 80s. He's unbelievable for sure.
Yeah.
Excellent. So, well, Brenden, this has been wonderful. Can you hang for a minute when we get finished here?
Yes, definitely.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Great seeing you. Hopefully we'll be seeing you next year. We lost the COVID reunion year last year in 2021, but hopefully we'll be seeing each other next year in 2023 for sure.
Definitely.
Thank you.